We're having technical difficulties on their audio, so thank you for bearing with us in this delay. We have a full audience, so we're going to start right up. Could I ask you all to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, so recording of attendance. We have 6 board members attending here in person tonight, and Candy Cruz, Chris Wayock, and Eric Boyer are attending virtually. I'd just like to establish now, for the record, that I'm just going to do a roll call for those 3 virtual members to make sure you can hear us and we can hear you, starting with Ms. Cruz.
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Wayock?
Present.
And Mr. Boyer? Eric? Yeah, that's, let's keep it up here. Hold on. Right here. Stephen thought had the idea to put it down there.
Mike's working. You had your phone on speaker.
This is Mike's.
Is it on speaker?
I'm going to let you handle your phone. We'll just keep it up here now.
Eric, are you with us, Eric?
You're on Bluetooth. Oh, you're on mute. He can't hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right, good. And so you're here. Okay, good. Eric, thank you.
Let's just leave it here just in case we have another troubleshooting issue. All right, so for the record, everyone can hear us and we can hear them. Thank you very much. And all other board members, we have full board here tonight. Thanks so much. We appreciate your patience. Moving on to visitor comments. I understand we have a mix of folks wanting to speak about girls wrestling and about kindergarten. So forgive us, we're just going to read them in the order in which people signed in. So the topics are probably going to alternate wrestling, kindergarten, wrestling, kindergarten. We're just going to go in the order you signed in. So having said that, before, thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask Ms. Libley to call the first visitor comment. Russell, you're going to have to help us with your last name. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you probably have to speak a little bit closer to that,
Okay.
but yes, we can hear you.
Hello, my name is Russell Schnitzer. My daughter Natalie is 9 years old and has recently completed her first year wrestling for Southern Lehigh. I did not want my daughter to wrestle. When she first brought up her desire to wrestle, I tried to dissuade her. I asked her, what do you know about wrestling? She said, Daddy, I've been watching wrestling on YouTube. I asked her, how in the world did you even pick wrestling? You have to be really tough. She said, I beat Grandpa all the time. Daddy, find me a place where I can wrestle. I did not want my daughter to wrestle. By chance, Natalie's female classmate wrestles. From her, we learned that on Sundays, there's an all-girls practice in Easton. After the first practice, Natalie cried. She stormed out of the building. She said it was too hard. I thought, we're done with wrestling. On the drive back from Easton, I told her, it's okay if you want to stop. She looked me dead in the eye and said, I'm not giving up my dream. Those were her exact words. During the second practice, Natalie struggled to complete all the wrestling drills. The other girls did extra drills to support her. Around this time, my neighbor mentioned that we should consider joining Southern Lehigh Wrestling. We joined the novice division, which consisted of a sea of boys and a few girls. After a few practices, I complimented Natalie's progress and asked her about a wrestling move. She looked at me like a parent looking at a child and said, Daddy, that was a half Nelson. At the first tournament, there was not enough participants in her weight class. Natalie ended up wrestling one of her teammates. She got hurt. She cried. We ended up going to the emergency room. The doctor said she needed time to recover. I thought, we're done with wrestling. She said her classmate recovered from an injury. She's not giving up. I did not want my daughter to wrestle. A few weeks later, she participated in another tournament. She lost her first match to a boy. She cried. She was upset. She said, I could have beat him. She calmed down with determination and announced, I'm not leaving here without a medal. I thought it was impossible. She ended up defeating the next 6 boys. She won 3rd place by defeating the boy to whom she lost at the beginning of the tournament. He cried. She asked me, Daddy, are you proud of me? I did not want my daughter to wrestle, but she did. The last tournament she attended was in Upper Perk. The first opponent was a giant. This boy was a foot taller and ready to compete in Mr. Olympia. Natalie lost. Her reaction was to scream at the top of her lungs. It was not fair. I tried to tell her that winning does not matter, that you learn more from losing, that everything will be fine. Inside, I thought it wasn't fair. I thought it was time for things to change. The school district can take the first step making this change by supporting an all-girls wrestling team. This will provide a bigger draw for future athletes and level the playing field. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Gretchen Peterson. I'm a Southern Lehigh resident, property owner, attorney, and mother of 2 young boys. I'm here today to request that the board act in the best interest of its students and implement a full-day kindergarten program in Southern Lehigh. Half-day kindergarten is hurting both our children and our property values. First, the shortened school day hinders the ability for children who are struggling to catch up. By the time students arrive at school and have a brief lesson, it's time to pack up and return home. For those students who are able to comprehend the lesson in a short time, this schedule may be acceptable, though not ideal for fully understanding concepts. For those students who need additional time to grasp a lesson, the shortened school day does not allow for time for those students to better understand the lesson. The half-day program requires an accelerated time frame for the kindergarten curriculum. Simply, there's just not enough time in the day, and those students already struggling continue to further struggle. The gap widens between those students excelling and those needing extra help. Half-day kindergarten is hurting our kids. Second, half-day kindergarten is devaluing property values throughout the school district. Southern Lehigh is the small minority, possibly the only school district in the entire Lehigh Valley that solely offers half-day kindergarten. Parents are desirous of full-day kindergarten programs for many reasons, including the educational benefits of a full-day program. As a result, Southern Lehigh's half-day kindergarten program, as well as the recent increase in class size due to budget cuts, deters home buyers from purchasing in the Southern Lehigh School District, consequently hurting property values. Admittedly, full-day kindergarten might cause property taxes to increase. However, that increase in taxes will be distributed throughout the entire district, only leading to a minimal increase for each household and business. That minimal increase will be offset by the increase in property values due to the more desirable full-day kindergarten program. Moreover, this increase in annual property taxes, which may or may not even occur, would be de minimis compared to the high cost of private full-day kindergarten that many families are forced to incur as a result of Southern Lehigh's half-day program. The benefits of full-day kindergarten are unquestionable. The benefits of full-day kindergarten unquestionably outweigh any potential increase in taxes, which again would be distributed throughout the entire school district. It is the role of the Southern Lehigh Board to not only just be fiscally responsible, but be responsible for the students of the Southern Lehigh and ensuring they get the best education possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Caprizlis. I have two kids in the district. My son Tasso, who is in 8th grade. He just finished up his junior high wrestling career here with us. And my daughter Gia, who's in 6th grade, who just finished up her youth career here. Tonight I come before you with a vision of boundless opportunity and empowerment. A vision that centers around the creation of girls' wrestling team within our esteemed school district. Wrestling, with its rich history and tradition, is a sport that embodies the values of resilience, determination, and camaraderie. By introducing a girls' wrestling team, we open the door to a world of endless possibilities for our female students. A world where they can discover their strengths, build their confidence, and forge lifelong friendships. Imagine the impact we can make by providing our young women with the chance to compete, to push themselves beyond their limits, and achieve greatness on the mat. We are not just creating a team, we are nurturing a community. A community where every member is valued, supported, and celebrated for their unique talents and contributions. By embracing girls wrestling, we send a very powerful message. One that is inclusive. We send the message for equality and also empowerment. We show our students that there are no limits to what they can achieve regardless of their gender. We teach them that success is not measured by wins and losses, but by the courage to step out onto the mat and give it their all. But the benefits of establishing a girls' wrestling team extend far beyond the realm of athletics. We are laying the foundation for our future leaders, individuals who possess the grit, determination, and resilience to overcome any challenge that comes their way. We are fostering a culture of acceptance where every student feels seen, heard, and valued for who they are. So I urge you, esteemed members of the board, join me in embracing this opportunity to stand on the side of progress, empowerment, and positive change. Let us work together to make history, to create a legacy that will inspire generations to come. Thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kira Wright. Jen and I actually have children that are almost exactly the same age, both participating in wrestling in the district. But tonight, what I wanted to do is bring to the table and share with you our family's excitement about the possibility of creating a girls' wrestling team here within the district. As you see, last year, my daughter, who was in 5th grade last year, came to us and said, I want to join the wrestling team. She watched my son compete for 5 years, and her words exactly, I want in on the excitement. I think it's important to inform the community and the board of the importance of this sport and what we've witnessed within our family over the number of years. Our coaches instill a deep sense of discipline and respect within our children. They teach confidence, leadership, and the significance of not only strong minds, but strong bodies at a very early age. I can't really put into words what it felt like this year, and I might break into tears too, because I know the feeling. What it felt like to see my 12-year-old daughter come up to me at her first competition wearing a singlet. And if you've ever seen a wrestling singlet, they're not very forgiving. But to see her come up to me at a tournament and say, Mom, I feel powerful. I am so excited. She had never had a competition before, and to hear those kind of words come out of her, it's extremely exciting and passionate to see that kind of level of commitment that our coaches have instilled within these children. There is a huge wrestling community here within our region. You know that a number of our other schools have already instilled junior high and high school teams as well. But I'd also like to see our approach to our district to formalize that commitment to female wrestling so that we can position our female athletes for success. There is a difference that develops rapidly in the middle school and beyond with the genders in wrestling. And it's important for us to understand that and recognize that and invest within our female athletes so that they have an equal opportunity to compete in the middle school and high school levels. It is challenging to compete. I've witnessed it firsthand already in 6th grade at the 120-pound level for the students to stay on par with one another. Also, with the growing number of scholarships for girls that are available in wrestling, it's interesting to note while there are 10 times as many male wrestlers as female wrestlers, the odds of a female wrestler competing in college are now becoming on par and in many locations exceeding the odds of male wrestlers given the number of new programs that are occurring. The opportunities abound for our female athletes. But also remember, as they're getting older, pound for pound against their male counterparts, there is an advantage that our male athletes have to be able to build muscle mass and strength at a very different level. Come to one of the high school tournaments. If you haven't ever had a chance, I'd encourage you to visually see the difference that occurs within the wrestling. But by appropriately sanctioning girls wrestling in our district, we will be able to create equality and the opportunity in middle school and high school for our female students to appropriately be able to compete adequately, not only within K-12, but beyond in their collegiate careers as well. So I encourage the board to consider voting for a middle school and high school team for our female athletes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Kroskin, and I am the father of two girls in the Southern Lehigh School District. I wanted to start by thanking the superintendent, the members of the school board, the high school principal, our athletic director, our wrestling coaches, and countless families in the wrestling community from youth to high school. There's been such a high level of support to get the school-sponsored girls team going. Since I spoke with you 2 weeks ago, my daughter was forced out of the girls division of the district tournament and into the boys division. She fought hard, but it went about as well as you'd expect. This past weekend, my daughter Lucia was in a non-PIAA sanctioned state tournament qualifier. I'm happy to let you know that Lucia had the opportunity to wrestle the girl who won the sanctioned PIAA junior high tournament here at her weight class. On the way to taking first place in the qualifier, Lucia took a 12-0 lead and then pinned the girl she was not allowed to wrestle at districts. I share this experience and hope that the decisions that you make will prevent other girls like Gia and Autumn, whose parents just spoke, from being denied the opportunity to wrestle in the girls division next year and allow them to bring their medals back to Southern Lehigh. As I mentioned at the last meeting, research shows that if you build it, they will come. The number of girls that are currently wrestling for our boys team is not representative of the number of girls that would wrestle if there was a girls team. Some numbers to help support this from within Pennsylvania. Girls participating in high school wrestling has seen a 746% increase this season from the 2019-2020 season, while the junior high participation rate in Pennsylvania has doubled in that last year. I wanted to thank you again in advance for recognizing the girls wrestling is not a new sport according to the board policy 123.2, and to thank you in advance for supporting sanctioning of a girls-sponsored wrestling team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Justin Jacobs. I'm a Southern Lehigh resident, live in the area since 2020. I have a daughter. She is 3. She will be attending this school district. I rise to speak in favor of full-day kindergarten, and I hope that the board will consider full-day kindergarten for our residents. Kids in our community are already experiencing full-day care or school. Moving from full-day care to half-day, then back to full-day kindergarten, full-day first grade, it's detrimental to these children. According to the National Education Association, it strengthens social and emotional skills because the kids have more time to transition between activities and more time to focus and reflect on activities. Full-day kindergarten boosts academic achievement according to the National Education Association, and data shows greater reading and mathematic achievement than those in half-day classes. As well, parents prefer full day because parents work full-time. Kids having to come home halfway through the day creates problems for those parents. Full-time kindergarten would make the children not need to be shuffled between home then to school, then to daycare, and then back to home creates a little bit more stability in these children's lives. So that is what I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is hello. My name is Brian Rizzo. I'm a father of 4 children, resident in the Southern Lehigh School District, and lifelong wrestler that came up through the Southern Lehigh Youth Program and went kindergarten to college. I've been the head coach of the Southern Lehigh Youth Wrestling Program for the past 5 years. So wrestling has had a very profound impact on my life personally and professionally, and I love sharing that experience. I love enriching the lives of our wrestlers both on and off the mat through the sport of wrestling. I've always been in stark realization, even before I began my coaching career, when I was a wrestler myself, that girls in the sport are at a competitive disadvantage when wrestling boys, especially when they move on, for me, in the youth room after their 6th grade season and onto the junior high and high school program. Although I do not have a daughter that wrestles, I fully support sanctioning girls wrestling at the junior high and high school level in our district for the girls who I have coached in the past, girls who are presently in my kindergarten 6th grade group, and girls that I presently do not know that will come into our program in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kelly Kohler. I'm a Southern Lehigh resident and also a mom of 3 daughters, aged 6, 5, and 3. I have a daughter that attends Hopewell in 1st grade, one entering kindergarten next year, and one following the year after. I am here tonight to ask the board to please begin discussions to implement bringing full-day kindergarten to Southern Lehigh School District. The data and statistics have been performed, which show the benefit of full-day versus half-day kindergarten. I am here today to not only advocate for my own children, but for the many children that will be coming up in our school district in the years to come. As stated by the National Education Association, full-day kindergarten boosts students' achievement as well as their social and emotional skills. At the end of the day, that is all we want for our children, to be given all the tools they need to be successful. Full-day kindergarten would allow children at this young age to grow more academically and socially and be more prepared when entering 1st grade. We stand alone as one of the only school districts in the area who do not have full-day kindergarten. I am asking for this board to start the process to implement full-day kindergarten within Southern Lehigh School District. Our children deserve this opportunity to grow socially, emotionally, and academically. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, I see we have no more visitor comments at this time. I just want to thank, for the folks at home, we have a full crowd here tonight, and I'm happy to say that the topics that were discussed have already been discussed at board level, both of these at the last board meeting. I know that Mr. Carney is talking about this will be coming up at an education committee discussion in the future. He has yet to be named a date on that, but it is absolutely on his radar, and I'll let him speak to that a little later tonight. Or perhaps, and you, I was just going to say, Dr. Mann at the last meeting said that he was going to follow up about and he has a full report tonight, he's telling me, in his superintendent presentation. So we will be hearing more about both of those items tonight, and we thank you for your comments. Moving on to, I'm going to turn it over to the solicitor for executive session summary.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gaiman. The Facilities Committee had an executive session on January 25th and February 6th to discuss potential litigation. The Negotiations Committee met on January 23rd, January 30th, February 7th, and February 22nd to discuss contract negotiations. The full board had an executive session on February 12th prior to and after the workshop meeting to discuss contract negotiations. And tonight, the full board had an executive session prior to the board meeting to discuss personnel and contract negotiations.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to we have approval of board minutes. Can I have a motion to approve board meeting minutes of January 22nd and February 12th of this year? Thank you, Mr. Carney. Second, thank you, Ms. King. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Mon?
In the 22nd January minutes, there, in section 11, the appointments for the public library are 3-year terms, not 2-year terms. So if we could maybe modify that.
All right. I don't see those being a substantive change. Just somebody verifying what that term is. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Thank you for that. Any others? I'm just going to pause a minute while we're examining our technical difficulties over here until are we good again? Okay, good. All right, great. All right, thank you, Mr. Mon. Duly noted that change. Any others? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Sorry, thank you very much. Moving on to superintendent's report. Dr. Mahan.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Gaiman. Is Sam here?
Yes, he is.
Sam, come up.
Sam
I'm
is Sam.
very- go ahead.
Sam and I had an opportunity to say hello while you were battling with the technical difficulties before, and he said he was going to come up to the mic and he had some news to share as a student representative
Yes, we are
here.
very, very excited, Sam, that you'll be joining us tonight. We are grateful for your leadership as a student class president and for the time you're spending with tonight. And so I guess maybe the best thing for me to do is to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and to give this is the first, at least certainly in recent time, of having a student representative. We're so proud to have you, Sam. And so the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm very excited. As the superintendent said, my name is Samuel Magallanes, and I'm the class president for the class of 2024 this year. And I just wanted to first say thank you for not only having a student report, but taking time out of your busy day to just sit down and just listen. So I wanted to say thank you to the parents, thank you to the staff, and thank you to the board members. First off, I want to start with general student recognition for LCTI. This past Wednesday, January 24th, the Skills USA District 11 Championship took place. Southern Lehigh was among roughly 500 competitors from 5 regional career and technical schools who participated in a variety of individual and team contests during the annual tournament at the Agriplex, which is the Allentown Fairgrounds Expo Center. Southern Lehigh students won a total of 16 gold medals, and those who won a gold medal were able to qualify to compete in the same category on April 3rd to 5th at Pennsylvania's Skill USA State Leadership and Skills Conference being held in Hershey. Along with that, Southern Lehigh will also be sending 3 students who participated in the Pennsylvania FBLA State Leadership Conference Regional Contest, which took place on January 9th at Lehigh Carbon Community College. States are set for April 7th through 10th, and more than 5,000 FBLA members from across the Commonwealth are expected to gather at this conference. Regarding speech and debate, senior Oren Bossert has been named an academic All-American in both academics and forensics by the National Speech and Debate Association. Regarding the National Merit Scholarship Awards Program, senior Hanson Fan has now been named a finalist for the 2024 school year and will compete against the remaining 15,000 finalists for $28 million in scholarships. Finally, I'll end with music. For County Band, on February 3rd, the high school hosted the annual County Band Concert. We want to give a special thanks to Mr. Fisher for all his hard work and dedication for this event, and to all the students for all their hard work to make the concert a success. Lastly, District and Region Chorus. Southern Lehigh will be represented by 3 students, Patrick D'Amico, Nicholas Pyers, and Matilda Snyder, at the PMEA Region 5 Chorus to be held on March 8th through 9th at Dover High School. Secondly, I want to go over athletic accolades. On January 29th, our unified bocce team had their first inter-school scrimmage when they competed against Upper Perkiomen. Our athletes and student helpers had a great time at the event and got to make new connections. This past January 21st, members of the boys and girls high school basketball teams, along with members of the high school cheerleading team, attended JPLIS to participate in their Tournament of Books kickoff assembly. The high school students had a great time helping the IS kids get excited about the tournament. At the end of January, Lucia Waman and myself were named Soccer Scholar Athletes by the Lehigh Valley Soccer Scholar Athlete Foundation. For our rifle team, this year they had a great season helping the coach, Gogler, achieve his 100th career victory. Additionally, senior Kayla Trinkle competed in the state competition as an individual and finished in top 10 in the state. We also want to give congratulations to wrestlers Ryan King and Brock Frabel for making the regional wrestling tournament, as well as Sean Steckert for making it as an alternate for placing District 11 wrestling tournament this past weekend. Also this past weekend, our winter track team took 12 athletes out to the PIAA Winter State Track Meet at Penn State University. All of the athletes competed well, and we had 2 school records and 2 medalists, Jack Ingalls, who won 3rd place, and Alexandra Lee, who won 7th place. Finally, this upcoming Friday and Saturday, we have multiple swimmers participating in the District 11 swim meet at Parkland High School. I want to end my report with upcoming events that will be happening in the month of March. The LCTI priority deadline for half-day labs is March 1st. The applications are already open and online. Spring sports will begin next week on March 4th. March 7th, Southern Lehigh High School will be hosting a college planning night in the auditorium beginning at 6:30 p.m. On March 9th, Southern Lehigh will also be hosting a digital SAT session. On March 13th through March 17th, the Southern Lehigh High School Drama Department will be presenting the musical The Addams Family, which tickets are now on sale. On March 21st, the Art and Literary Club is hosting a coffee house in the high school cafeteria from 6:30 to 9. On March 23rd is Minithon at the high school, and the deadline to sign up and participate is March 1st. Finally, on March 27th, all high school juniors will take the ASVAB exam in school. Additional information for all junior parents will be coming out later in the March. Thank you.
Sam, thanks so much for sharing. It was good. Yeah, keep going to your seat. I don't mean to call you back. Thanks so much for sharing all that great information. It is great to hear. And I see some of those students that you named are in our audience for their achievements. So congratulations to those of you in the audience and to those of you at home. We're so proud and we're happy Sam could come and share that with us this evening. Thank you. Dr. May?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Gabin. A few things. I'm going to conclude my report with a discussion of wrestling, but we'll check off a few things first. I want to thank Mr. Rohrbaugh, who just walked out the door, for completing the upgrade of our door lock system through the district. We've been swapping out. We're largely finished. We are swapping out some final mechanisms. That was a big upgrade to our infrastructure and certainly improvement to our doors and facilities as far as school security is concerned. I want to thank Mr. Carney for raising some time ago the idea of 988 on the back of our ID tags. That conversation has been ongoing among our administrators. We're trying to figure out how best to do it and approach. We'll be reporting back to the board in the near future as we consider that very thoughtful idea that you presented to us.
I'm checking off things because Sam covered so many of my, like the musical, you're covering the 988.
Okay, all right, good. Very good. Okay, all right. And we will be the worst for that, Mr. Carney, but in any case. I want to also point out that we have the calendar on our agenda for tonight. The calendar is very consistent with how we have managed this in the past. Notably, we have, just by the way the dates fell, a 2-week break over winter break, which we think is likely to be well received by the students, but again, which is more of a date thing. I also want to thank Dr. Ake Little. You'll see on the board tonight there is a small, and there's Mr. Rohrbaugh. Mr. Rohrbaugh, thank you for your work on the fob system. Just all right. But Dr. Ake Little has a very small, as far as dollar value, but a very important contract for asking the board to approve that adds additional internal controls for the process we do in screening individuals to come here to take care and deliver services to our children. So anytime we could get better at what I think we already are good at, it's a big step forward. So I want to thank him for that. And so with that, a brief bit of information, I want to present a report to the board regarding girls wrestling. And I should begin by saying that this board and this district is no stranger to supporting girls wrestling, and that we were among the first 100 districts to send a letter to the PIAA at the direction of the board last year to encourage the PIAA to recognize girls wrestling as a sport, and so they have. All right, so that I think was a very, very important step, and it does beg the question, as many of our speakers tonight have raised, about how do we respond to that development from the PIAA. So I put together just some bulleted items that I'd like to share. Certainly, we can stop at any time, have conversation or discussion. But so if you could allow me, I'll just start by saying that currently we have one female participant at the high school level and one female participant at the junior high level. All right, so our numbers are not large at this point. We have 2 students who are participating. Those who participate in the varsity at the high school are allowed at the end of the season to participate in districts and states for girls teams. Right, so they do have, even though they'll wrestle on the boys team during the year, at the end of the year, they do have that opportunity to go forward. That is not the case for junior high. Junior high does not have formal districts or formal state playoffs. The league, a group of teams, they do have an end of the year tournament that girls were excluded from because of, it's a complicated thing about numbers of points and how many matches and restrictions from the PIAA. For us to rectify that, we would in fact need to have a girls team. All right, but junior high teams, and we were not alone, many junior high teams that have girls participating, but not a specific girls junior high team per se, ended up in the same spot we did by having very talented athletes excluded from that opportunity. Even though it wasn't formally PIAA state related, it certainly was end of the year, very important end of the year tournament conducted by our local school districts. So there are several complicating factors that are not the creation of Southern Lehigh School District that a board would have to consider as it is moving forward with this idea. First, we learned that girls may only compete and practice against other girls if we have a girls team. Girls then are restricted to participate only with other girls, right? And again, that would not be at all a problem if we had large teams, as we would hope ultimately to have. But it is potentially a problem early on, where if we have small numbers of girls or girls that are of widely different weight classes or aptitudes, that could early on present some form of a problem. Now, other Colonial League teams, including Lehigh, Palmerston, and Palisades, have varsity wrestling teams. And the other larger schools in our region also have wrestling teams or wrestling clubs that kind of equate to teams. So we do think that there is sufficient number of schools in our region to have meaningful competition. We think early on, rather than league meets as is traditional, we would likely see more tournaments where girls would be invited to have a full slate of opportunity to wrestle, but really not so much one team against the other as we often see here at the school. So moving to policy. Southern Lehigh has a policy that implies that for a new varsity team, usually that team will begin as a club, and the club will persist for 3 years, and then at which time that team would come back to petition the board to be a varsity sport. However, I would say that I think that I don't think there is a very real quantifiable difference from a team that would come that was not in existence before, a bowling team, even a soccer team at the middle school, co-ed soccer team at the middle school, where it's something that's entirely new and that they're asked to form a club. Whereas girls wrestling is different in that our girls have been wrestling here, and they've been wrestling in less than ideal circumstances in that there was no girls team or league, and that has changed. And that change, I think, if the board wishes to head in that way, creates a justification to say that there could be a departure from the policy that speaks about clubs being the first iteration of moving toward a varsity team. And on the issue of clubs versus varsity team, essentially they're the same, except a club would be funded entirely by the participants, a booster club, the parents. There would be no funding if a team were to be formed as a club. And we do have club teams in this district who undoubtedly in time will be requesting recognition as a PIAA sport. Whereas a varsity team is fully funded by the school district. And so the board may ask, what does it cost to have a team? And when you consider a varsity team with coaching, transportation, uniforms, all of it, we estimate that cost would be about $25,000 for a girls varsity team, and that would include grades 9 through 12. For a junior high wrestling team, we think that cost would be about $18,000. And as we look at this issue, we think some of the issues non-related to Southern Lehigh with respect to who can compete against whom and a critical number of competition, those problems are more acute at the junior high level than the varsity. Right? So, I mean, it's conceivable we could start a team, we could do everything possible on our end, and through just a number of things outside our control, many of them PIAA rules, we would have some, potential barriers to face. Those barriers exist at the varsity level, but we think are less profound. And so, a word on participation. There is another Field of Dreams fan among us tonight in that the theory, if you build it, they will come. That, of course, relates to building a baseball field in the middle of a cornfield with no plan, but all of a sudden, over time, all kinds of teams in baseball will come there because if you build it, they will come. And I think that there is a very reasonable rationale to say that, yes, our numbers are low right now, 1 and 1 on both teams. And is that a sustainable number for investment of $25,000? It is not. It is not. However, by designating it as a varsity wrestling team, by having a coach and all the support and communication within our high school and within our community, I do think there's a very good chance that that team would grow organically, right? And in a way, it's like an early investment. And I use the analogy of an advanced placement program. And is having started advanced placement programs, it's a lot of money, there's a lot of cost, there's a lot of investment, there's a lot of time. And very often in the first year or two when offering an advanced placement course, they are undersubscribed. And if you look at it strictly on a cost-benefit analysis in any particular given year, it might not make the mark, but by investing early and having, if it's there, students will take it and grow. Very often that's the only way you get to have a flourishing, vibrant AP program, all right, is by being patient early on. And so I would say to the board, obviously, having one girl on each team at this point is a cause of, examination. But I will also say that within this policy, their superintendent is called upon to make reports to the board about teams that may not be generating student interest, that may not be the best allocation of resources. And so I would say that certainly not after year one, but should the board decide to move forward, we would monitor this, we would encourage it. We actually think there may be some teams currently on our roster of teams that are really not achieving the support and interest relative to the cost associated with them. So in time, our hope would be that it would flourish and grow. We kind of think that is a likely outcome. But if in fact, for some reason, students want to just continue to wrestle in private leagues outside the district and it just didn't catch on, then it would not be something we would be to carry with us indefinitely because there is a provision in the policy for the superintendent to review and get back to the board. So that is in a nutshell the information that I found since our past meeting. Grateful to Mr. Miller and Mr. Spangler for their assistance in putting this together. Any inaccuracies are my own, for sure, not theirs. And at this point, I don't know if there's any comment or discussion for the board. We do have some time. This would not launch until winter sports for next year, so we're just under a year away. But if this is something the board would wish to consider, the sooner the better as far as getting organized and building interest and all that. So Mrs. Gaiman, that concludes my report. Thank you, and I'm very happy to take questions and entertain discussion on that topic.
Mike and President Gaiman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Mhm.
Great. No, I just wanted to thank you, Mike, for that report. I was pretty struck by the visitor comments, and I really appreciate you bringing this back to the board by the next meeting. This is something I would really like to see us do, and I'd like to see us commit as a board to both junior high and high school girls wrestling. So if it's okay, Ms. Gaiman, if I could make a motion.
Chris, you're going in and out. If there's any way you can adjust your mic or stay closer to it. Sometimes
Yep.
you're really clear and sometimes you're not.
Yep. No problem. Can you hear me now?
Yes, but it's muffled. It was clearer before.
Can you hear me now?
Chris, is this on our end or is it? Okay.
Can you hear me better now?
There you go.
Yes.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So I would like, okay, thank you so much. I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to direct the administration to create a school-sponsored girls wrestling program at both the junior high and high school levels that will compete in the 2024-2025 school year.
Chris, I appreciate the feedback. I think a lot of board members would like to pursue this. Unfortunately, because of the rules we have in place with agendas and such, making a motion for an item that would involve an outlay of the money to the amount that Dr. Mann addressed tonight. I'm going to ask the solicitor to weigh in on this, but I don't believe we can make a motion tonight to that extent, but we can direct the administration that we would like to pursue this further at, like a policy level to look at that first. We can absolutely do that at our next policy committee, but I don't think we can make a motion tonight. Solicitor Moyer, could you please explain?
Yeah, sure. No, Chris, Dr. Wayoff, we're not able to add an item to the agenda. It does not fit under the exceptions of the Sunshine Act. As a result of having to expend funds for the program, we're precluded from putting it on this month and amending the current agenda, but it could certainly be placed, at a later date.
We need to make a motion to place it on the agenda for the next meeting.
No, we just direct the administration and the board,
Can I direct the administration and the board to place this on the agenda for the next meeting? As Dr. Wayhawk has stated, for both a junior high and a high school team.
Second.
Dr. Mann is Dr. Mann's chuckling.
Let me say this. I very much, when we put the agenda together, try to reflect the desires of the board. And if we see that this is where the board would like to head, we'll just get underway with it, flat out, and then we'll come back and handle the paperwork at some future time. But there's no need to direct it if that's where we would like to go. And again, I don't want to short circuit because there may be other views here. But if that's the direction, we'll just go make it happen.
I think putting it on the agenda for a discussion is the appropriate way to go, according to the solicitor, so that we do vote on it and we move forward, because it does involve expenditure of money.
Oh, definitely.
So let's do that, not delay.
Yeah, the policy requires the board to approve any varsity sports. We will bring it to you, but if that's what the board would like to do, we'll just operate under the assumption that we're moving ahead with this. And at some point in the very near future, we'll get this on the motion.
Dr. Mann, I think you just said my thought. I would like to hear more about it. I support it. I'm an advocate for our young females. We probably just need to look at crossing our T's and dotting our I's so that we have a seamless approach for a rollout for our young athletes.
Yes. And my biggest worry, even with the great enthusiastic support of the board and administration, there are real challenges at the junior high level that exist, and we'll have to maybe talk with our partners here in the community and our high school principal and athletic staff to try to come up with a plan to make sure that we're successful, right? Because being fully supportive, is great, but we also have to be thoughtful in trying to make this work, right? And so we'll get rolling on that, and we'll be ready at our next meeting with more detail. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think this the direction we should head and start doing the due diligence on figuring out how to make it successful. I think there's potential safety issues with the way things are now. I think to have a rollout of an official program is good. The one thing I would ask is there a way we could contact a couple of the other school districts, just out of curiosity of the ramp up time? If we're starting with single digits, how long has it taken? Maybe it's some of our neighboring school districts that have a newer program that we could use as just an idea of how long it takes, so that we are calibrated when we talk about it. I think that's what I would ask. And, then we can evaluate accordingly.
Yes.
Or
And-
what worked and what didn't work.
Right, and I will tell you that Mr. Miller and Mr. Spangler have actually sent out surveys, and we've benefited from that from our neighboring districts. And I think we do have that information, and we'll get back with a further report next month or next meeting when we're requesting the board to approve the motion.
I think I definitely want to explore this further as a board. My concern with placing a voting item to create the team at our next voting meeting is that we do currently have a policy in place. Don't quote me, but policy like 123, I think it honestly is 0.5, that we at the last, somebody's saying over here, did I get it right, Dr. Little? Excellent. All right. Policy 123.5, that we do currently have in place that says that if the board decided to create that team, we would be in violation of our own policy. And because we do have a little bit of time and we have another policy meeting coming up, I can commit as policy chair to placing this on the agenda to look at that policy and address it and bring it to the board for a change. But I would suggest that as a board, if they both appear on the same agenda, but I would not want to make a vote as a board to potentially create a team that was in violation of our current policy before we were able to adjust that policy per, solicitor review.
Yeah, and
Feel free to correct me here, but I think that would make sense. That would be my major objection.
Could I make a suggestion that for the next meeting on the agenda, we place an item to discuss that policy and get into first
Yes.
reading?
And I actually have that policy and looked at it, and I was under the impression, like others, that there had to be a 3-year probationary period, for lack of a better word, with sports. Now, as I read it, all right, if you are a club, you need to stay 3 years before you come to ask for varsity. But it does not appear that there is a mandate for a team to be a club. So the board may appoint a team as a varsity team. Again, as I read it, all right, may appoint it as a varsity team right out of the gate. However, a team that is a club sport is required by policy to be a club sport for 3 years before coming back for the board's approval.
So we don't get into policy muck. Let's just go ahead with adjusting the policy for a first read on the agenda for the
sure.
next
And-
meeting.
The
but I don't
policy,
know that it
the
has to be-
policy committee will absolutely look at that. It's going to look at the 100 series anyway. We have it on our schedule now to be looked at the next committee meeting, and we will absolutely bring that to the board.
Suggesting at the next board meeting.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Dr. Mann, thank you very much for that comment. That's my reading of that policy as well. And I do understand we'll look at that policy, but I'm going to ask that this motion in particular for girls wrestling at both the junior high and the high school level be for a school-sponsored activity, not a club.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you for that report very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Moving on to-
While we're in the superintendent, we should
Yes.
finish the superintendent's report.
Thank
right?
you.
So,
Yes.
with that, I request the board to approve the 2024-25 calendar as presented in the agenda.
All right, thank you. Any questions? I believe Mike discussed these changes, and we've seen this in advance, and we appreciate. Thank you for giving that to the board to look at. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Carney.
So in looking at
Thanks.
In looking at the calendar that we have this year versus the one that's being proposed, I think there's only one change that I saw, and it was like a day 5 changing what it is. And if you could just share the rationale for the change. Yeah, it was inclement weather, day 5. I think there's a change in what it is now
Yes.
versus what it
Yes.
will be.
And so the The board some time ago, and I think very wisely with the support of administration, said the best form of instruction is in person, and we should do everything possible to encourage in-person instruction. So our first 4 or 5 snow days are actually just that, snow days. Is it 4? 4. The first 4 are snow days, and that our teachers will be off, our students will be off, go play in the snow, right? Then after that, because we don't want to go too late into the summer, we have what's called FID days, where students will be home but engaged with instruction. The teachers will be there, so they'll get a credit for the day. I think in past years, before we went to FID, we knocked off a day from the spring vacation. And I think this year, because of just the way the spring vacation worked out and in service, a number of different reasons that Dr. Trinkle would know better than I would, we thought it would just better to do it this way.
And this change is only for, like, this year's calendar was already adopted. There's no changes for this year in case there would be a day. I don't know what day.
No, I think we're good right now. In that,
Now that you
right,
said
in
that.
and you know, you're the expert. You're right, that's, but should a blizzard come along, we're prepared. We've reached out to our teachers. I think we've reached out to our students. So we're ready to do FID days, if that's correct. We are set to go. And so should we have extended time off, we're not going to have, we have one more snow day, I think.
We have one more snow day.
One more snow day,
Yes.
which everyone will be home. But if we get a number of days off because of a storm, a March storm or whatever it happens to be, our kids will not have to push later into the year. Our teachers will be online working through this flexible instruction day. So we're ready to go. I think we're good this year. I think we are.
You need a motion?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify for the public. I'll take that motion in a second. I just want to clarify, Dr. Mann. So what you're saying is this year's calendar, we have one more snow day left. If we take that snow day, it will come off of our spring break this year. Is that correct?
No.
Because it's not correct.
No,
So
no.
I misheard. Could you please?
We have one day left where if it snows and we're home, we'll be home and then
And
we're good.
don't have to make it up.
Everybody's
We're good.
good.
Okay, good.
Everybody's good. Now, after that, I think according to the calendar, we lose a day off the
Spring break.
vacation.
Okay.
We'd
And then they
like
get
to
tacked
avoid
on.
that if we could,
Yeah.
for sure. And then next year, we're not going to be pulling days off the spring break because it's just too short.
Right.
And so we're going to go right to the flexible instruction day after the 4 days that we're just going to be off because of snow.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So moved, Ms. Reinhardt, and a second with Mr. Carney. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I heard 2 ayes. I'm assuming that wasn't in opposed. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you all. Yes, and Dr. Trinkle.
I just have one item under the Special Education and Student Services. It is an agreement with Maxim Educational Institution Agreement. We're asking for a motion to approve an agreement with Maxim for one-to-one nursing services for a student with special education needs for the remainder of this school year. That agreement then will be eligible for any other potential coverage we might need, but for right now, we are in need of a one-to-one coverage for a student in our school.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Reinhardt. Second, thank you, Ms. Torba. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to, we don't have anything under technology tonight, bills and finance. Mr. Pepe, anything to note on the bills list?
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, bills list tonight. We have some items from January as well as February. You have the bills list in front of you. I just went through to highlight a couple. Agentis Plumbing, $7,559. That's based on some service calls and equipment to various schools over the 2-month period. Amazon, again, that's a big number, $15,378, but it's broken down over a myriad of purchases of general supplies, both at the middle school, the high school, as well as music and theater. Avena Healthcare, $87,000. That's approximately 7 special ed student services. Berks IU, 4940, that's for the e-tax tracks program. Brook Air Company, 14,400, that's for annual filters for all of the buildings. Carbon Lehigh IU 21, 549,000, again, that's a breakout of elementary and secondary special ed programs. Let's see. Christ is on here, 240,000, that's our transporter. You'll also notice Hotel Saucon LLC, 11,775. They will also be on our property tax refund. That is the balance of what was due them, and that's for the 2% discount. That was not on the prior. And Norman's Bus is on here. Petroleum Traders Corporation, again, for any of the new board members, that's part of the transportation, fuel, and diesel that we acquire through the competitive co-op at the county. And that's really the highlights of the bills list, unless anyone has any other questions.
No, and barring questions, I would just say, Mr. Pepe, why don't you roll through? I'd just like to take all these business items in one vote, and that we don't have to extend the night. But I see, does Mr. Mond have a question?
Yeah, would you remind me, Mr. Pepe, how many payments there are to the busing or the transportation per, is it a quarterly?
No, that's monthly.
Monthly.
Yeah.
So $250,000 per month, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
I suggest everyone use our busing services.
And just so everyone knows, they're also bid out, and just like tonight's contract that's on here. And I'm going to go through, I'll give you a quick overview so that you can take action on everything.
Thank you. That'd be great.
The treasurer's report, pretty standard. We're still doing very well. Property tax refund, I just went over. Tonight, as far as budget, I do have a small presentation on LCTI.
But we're not voting on that, so we can.
Yeah,
Our budget. Sorry, I skipped ahead. We are voting on LCTI. You do have a brief update on the Southern Lehigh School District draft budget, but we're not voting on the draft budget.
Correct.
Okay.
Our budget is simply proceeding as planned. We're still on target. At this point, we're now starting to focus on revenues. And again, I anticipate we're going to have a very good budget year. That's
Great.
about all I have for that. So if you would like, we can take A, B, and C. I'll get up and do the presentation, and then we'll take D.
That sounds great. Could I have a motion to approve the bills list, the treasurer's report, and the property tax refunds that Mr. Pepe just went over?
So moved.
I got a so moved from Dr. Wayak, I believe, if I heard correctly, and a second I'm going to take from Mr.
Second.
Mond. All right, thank you very much. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, Mr. Pepe, back to you for the LCTI presentation to approve their budget.
So as I said, I'm going to try and make this pretty quick. LCTI, as you know, is one of our partners. And as you heard from our student representative, a lot of good things are happening up there. So as far as our budget, I had talked before, there's basically two tracks: board actions, administrative activities, and we are on track. Back in November, we passed a resolution limiting our increase to the 5.3%. We are going to be far, far under that 5.3%. Moving into January, we gave an update on the audit. The auditor came, discussed where we are, and preliminary presentation on the draft budget. So here we are in February for LCTI budget. Then over the next month, there's no board action needed and not seeking any exceptions. So as I said, we're going to be reviewing revenue projections, which we've already started today. And in April, we will be looking for the proposed draft budget for approval. And we'll have a final staffing recommendation from the superintendent as per the budget. And then we'll be looking in May for the proposed final budget for approval, review, and then in June, we'll adopt. So we're right on line with our budget. So tonight, I want to real quickly go through LCTI. We already covered the L-Tri-C budget and the IU-21 budget. So tonight, we're looking at the $1.6 million that's in our budget for LCTI and how it's broken down. They're up about 4.1% this year. It's really three basic pots that come out. And that's the operating budget net costs, which is 1.2 million. That covers all of the programming, and that's up about 6.3%. The capital cost, our district share is $41,000. That's up barely 0.22%, or 7,600. The total debt service is actually down as more of the debt has been surrendered. So that's going down 3.8. And in total, when we look at the proportionate share, everything hinges right here as you go across based on the average daily membership. And what that really means is that we have a 4.6% increase over the prior 5-year average. More students are participating at LCTI. And that's one of the things that we heard from our student representative, that not only they're participating, but they're doing very, very well. So when you look at that change, it's easy to graph and chart because I look at the trend line, and as you can tell, we went from 4.11 all the way up to 6.13. So you see that constantly moves up. And that's the basis in the formulation that not only Southern Lehigh, but all other districts are charged the portion based on their average daily membership. So this year, when we look at the total of all three lines, I come across and I see that the market values are slightly, they're pretty much the same. And that's one of the other indicators. It's up 22% from the prior. And when you look at the debt service calculation, the $283,000, you have to consider that we'll also get state aid or the debt service payment, gross debt service from the state to help pay that off. And that's going to be about $49,000. So the 283 number is the gross number. And then if you minus about 50,000 from that, that'll be our final bill. And that's what I'll end up budgeting for that. Here, when you looked at, last year I put this chart together to show how our market values were changing year over year. And we're kind of right here, third one in. And if you look for the most current, it came in at 9.3. So we're relatively still running at 9%. So we really don't have any big movement in that area. And that's why we haven't seen any big swings in our billing. When I looked at the cost drivers for their total operation, it really comes down to salaries, 42% of their budget, or 13.5 million. That's the big blue part of the pie. The next area is benefits, 31.4%, or $10 million. Then debt service is 9.5%, or $3 million. And supplies and equipment rounded out with about 10%, or $3.2 million. I guess the best takeaway is the total increase of $1,260,000 is mostly in salaries and benefits. And that still represents 73% of the budget, which is pretty much on par with where they were last year, really for the last couple of years. So that's really all I have on my review of their budget. And I would recommend that we approve that. Any questions on that?
Just a couple of comments since I'm on the JOC. You know, you and I have talked about this, but the LCTI has been working in the past year or so at tightening up the analysis of the budget and understanding allocations in a better way, and really digging in with the new administration there. And I know they've been working as well with, as they've told us, the superintendents and also the JOC. So, and you know, so I think there are some good things happening there. They're also evaluating programs to make more use of the budget with some consolidation of programs to make it more attractive. They've also been going through a lot of improvements. So I think overall, you know, my opinion after seeing this now for the past year, they've been moving in the right direction on these things. So I agree with you that this needs to move forward.
Thank you. Tim?
I've only gone to one meeting so far, so it's hard to judge much. But I was very impressed with how many grants and donations they're going after. They're not just relying on the school districts. And So far, 2 school districts have voted on the budget, Northern Lehigh and Northwestern, I think, and it's been 18-0. They've approved the LCTI budget. So I'd also say that I'd make a motion to approve it if that's what we need.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. Did I hear a motion from Mr. Mond and a second from Mr. Carney to approve the, now just to be clear, we're approving the LCTI budget, not any draft budget for Southern Lehigh, just the LCTI. Thank you. I wanted to make that note. So seeing a motion and a second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Pepe.
Thank you.
And
then-
it's good to see the cost driver of that extra couple $1,000s going to LCTIs because more students are using those services and really pursuing those trades, which will ultimately benefit their postgraduate opportunities and also what the resources our community has in its youth going forward. Wonderful news all around. All right, moving on to support services.
Yeah, under support services, we had, I'm sorry, there we go. Under support services, we actually had a lot of conversation on the next 2 items that are now ready for action. The first one has to do with the chiller replacement at Liberty Bell. That was identified as a level 1 essential building system by EI, and that also was in the KCBA report, as well as the next item, which is the Liberty Bell Elementary School roof project. That was a level 2 building skin, and that was again discussed and put forward not only from the 2 architectural firms, but it got a lot of discussion and administration recommendation, and also the facilities committee recommended at the last meeting. So they are on for action tonight. And lastly is item C, and that's the specialized student transportation agreement with Norman Bus Service. That we've already bid out. We already accepted the bid and awarded the bid. This is simply the contract which stipulates the terms and conditions which were inclusive in the bid. And that actually came in pretty well for going out to bid as far as pricing. It represents a little over 4% increase, and that's against 3 years backdrop of 7%, 6.5%, and 3.4%. That was the CPI for transportation. Yet in each one of those years, we were able to renew with that contractor at 3%.
Great, thank you very much. Could I have a motion to approve the Liberty Bell Chiller project, the roof project, and the transportation agreement with Norman's Bus Service?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Mond.
make a motion.
And okay, make a motion and a second between Mr. Boyer and Mr. Mond. Ms. Libley, I'll let you sort out who gets what on that.
And I do want to thank the facility committee, Mr. Boyer, for their hard work on this. They've done a really great job, and I, again, very much appreciate the work they did in contributing to this effort.
Yeah, and the information provided to the board ahead of time was great. We all knew what we were voting on tonight. We appreciate that. So, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Moving on to human resources. Dr. Ake Little, anything of note or that we need before we vote on these?
I just wanted to point out that I don't know if you may recall, but David Gilbert, one of our custodians, is retiring. Actually, this Friday is his last day. And so we have his replacement, but we are incredibly thankful for his over a decade of experience. So it is always when I have an opportunity to mention a employee who is retiring from us, it's always nice in a public forum to recognize that person's achievements. So
Absolutely. And we wish him his best. If you see him in the hallway, wish him the best of luck. And we say
Yes.
thank you for your service and happy retirement.
Otherwise, we have a pretty standard agenda of individuals. We're hiring 3 instructional assistants. We actually have 1 that is leaving us, but we netted 2, I guess, in the process. We have a number of folks who are joining us in terms of as substitutes, whether it's IAs or substitute teachers. We also have a student teacher and we always welcome the opportunity for folks to learn from our district and potentially be future teachers that would want to come here. We have some individuals who are who are, for various reasons, taking unpaid leave. And as well, we have extracurricular and ancillary staff, especially as we gear up for the spring performance. We have individuals who are joining us. So that is more or less a rough summary of all the individuals that are looking to join us this time.
All right. Thank you very much for that summary. And the Act 168 software
Yes,
agreement.
the Act 168 software agreement, as Dr. Mann really summarized, which is it is a very nominal fee of a $500, but it is a lot of districts, in fact, almost virtually all the districts in the Lehigh County use it. It is a great cloud-based system for us to expedite our processing of Act 168. We are a very sought after, and I'm very thankful as HR director that we get a lot of interested, high quality applicants that are interested in working for us. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we are expeditious and also diligent in making sure that we vet those applicants so that we can bring them on board as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that explanation. Could I have a motion to approve items A and B under human resources?
So moved.
So, thank you. We have Mr. Mond and I believe Ms. King. Did I hear you? All right. Beat you to it, Mr. Boyer. But so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? And I apologize if anyone had any questions. I hope you would jump in. But I thank you for your report, Dr. Ake Little. Moving on to committee reports. I guess I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Carney, because your topic came up. I know you have a committee coming up tomorrow, right?
So we have ACMC was postponed, but we dealt with a deadline issue. So we didn't have time to process and discuss because it came in, I think, the day that we were supposed to meet. And so we talked about the possibility of putting a deadline on the forms that teachers turn in to take credits. And then we also talked about what does an online class approval, so we're not reinventing the wheel every time somebody applies. Is there a past list we can look at, and what are the guidelines? So we're looking at both of those. LCTI is on Wednesday, and then the Ed Committee will be meeting. I'm excited. It's the first time we're meeting, and it's 4:15. It's at the Ad Building. I wrote down a quote, "Start the growing where you are." And so I thought an overview of the curriculum, where we are, to just what do we have going on, would be informative to me and maybe anybody else that was there. And then there are two pressing items, Spanish immersion and social studies textbooks for grade 6 and 7. And I want to thank Dr. Trinkle for all of her work putting this agenda together. There will be opportunity for people to speak about topics that are not on the agenda. And kindergarten, we hear you. It'll be talked about in the committee, not in depth tomorrow, because it's going to be a larger topic than just that committee. It's going to be facilities. It's going to be whole board. But just want to let you know, and you guys know, that I'm hearing it. Okay? Sound fair, Dr. Trinkle?
I have a question. You brought up facilities with regard to the education committee. I just wondered what that was exactly about, since I'm on the facility committee.
If we went with full day kindergarten, there might be some facilities implications if we went that direction. I would assume.
Mr. Carney, my only comment to the new board members and the education committee members is our esteemed administration and Karen and her staff have done numerous presentations over the past 2 years on curriculum development and improvements. And all of those meetings are on Zoom. So if you go back through some of the board meetings, you may be able to listen to those presentations and catch up.
All right. Moving on, we've already discussed policy tonight. I said that our next policy committee meeting will be looking at the 100 series. That is upcoming, I believe, the first week in March, but we have not yet met in the interim, so I do not have anything to report. And I'm also the representative on the IU board, but the IU does not meet in the month of February. So again, I have nothing to report. Moving on, who else has a committee report? Does anyone have a committee an LCTI report?
LCTI meeting is coming up this Wednesday, so it can report back at our next meeting.
Right, exactly. Sometime the timing of that doesn't work out. And facilities, we had a report at the last meeting and we haven't had. So, all right. So committee reports are concluded. Do we have any new business or other business I don't see on the horizon? But, oh, yes, Mr. Carney,
I'll go
we have
first.
information only, but you did mention you had some things you wanted to comment on it.
So the musical, if anybody here tonight wants to buy tickets, you can buy tickets tonight. There's the bar, the scan, the QR code. Teamworks. I went to their 25th dinner, and for teenagers, they're looking for. They had a scholarship that went out to a senior. They couldn't give one out this year because there was no seniors. They meet monthly, and what you do is you listen to teen-led projects, community improvement, and you decide who gets the money for it. So either if you want to be on the board for Teamworks, or if you're a community organization led by teen, they have money to give out. It's funded by United Way. I would highly recommend that you at least consider going to them for any kind of funding. A lot of Boy Scouts go for their badge like projects. Teamwork, Special Olympics, Unified. Sam, if he's still here, I don't see him. But I was going to ask that we look into that. It's Special Olympics, Unified Schools. It's students that would qualify for Special Olympics, but it's year round instead of one day or a weekend tournament kind of thing. They have bocce ball, soccer, and track and field. So it sounds like we're already doing it though. 988, thank you. Governor's budget. I'm just going to throw this out. I'm not trying to be political, but a lot of our funding is politics. The governor's budget proposal talked about cyber reform, and one of the proposals he's asking for is for cyber schools to have a flat rate across the state. You might love that idea, you might hate it. I did see it would save Southern Lehigh $400,000. I don't know how real those numbers are, but if I would ask if you're interested in this kind of reform, that you educate yourself and maybe educate your legislator or find out what they feel. Thanks.
You may want to educate the public about what will cost Southern Lehigh in the governor's budget as well with regard to education. It's not one-sided.
Thanks, Mr.
Sides
Carney.
to that coin.
Thanks, Mr. Carney. Anything else under new business or other? All right. I think Sam covered a lot for us earlier. So in which case, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lobley and ask if there were any visitors who signed in to comment. She's indicating there were not in the interim of our meeting. Dr. Mayan, sorry, were you reaching for your mic to say something?
I was making sure it was off. So thank you.
Okay. All right. So in that case, we are looking for a motion to adjourn. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for the crowd coming out. Thank you to our people who logged in remotely.
Congratulations on the committee stuff.